Hello, this is Mrs. Simmons, and your lesson for today is on reading maps using latitude and longitude lines. Please make sure you have your activity sheet that you were given in class today. If you do not, please pause the video, go get your activity sheet and a pencil, and then restart the video. All right, now we're ready for our flipped lesson for today. Have you ever had the unfortunate problem of being lost? Maybe you were lost in the woods while camping, or perhaps you were lost while riding in a car. Getting lost can be frustrating, and it also can be very dangerous. But there is one tool that can be very helpful, and that is a map. What is a map? What are some different kinds of maps? And how do we go about reading a map? During the next few minutes, we're going to explore those questions and others as we investigate reading maps. So, what are maps? Chances are you've seen or used one yourself, maybe on a car trip, or maybe a map has helped you find your way when you're camping or hiking. You've probably seen a weather map in the newspaper or on television. Traditionally, maps have been printed on paper. A book of maps is called an atlas. Today, many maps are digital, and we find maps on our cell phones or our iPads. And sometimes when we look at a map, when we're looking at the world, we look at a globe instead of a map. How is a globe different from a map? Well, while maps tend to be flat and printed on paper or in digital form, globes are spherical or a round representation of the Earth. A globe is roughly the same shape as Earth and illustrates positions of the major continents and bodies of water. However, whether using a map or a globe, there are ways to determine location. Suppose you are far out to sea in a boat with no land in sight. How would you describe your position or location? Map makers and navigators have solved this difficult problem by placing a set of imaginary lines in a crisscross pattern on the surface of Earth. You are probably familiar with one of these lines already. That is the equator. It lies halfway between the north and south poles. The equator divides the Earth into two halves. Find the line labeled equator on your activity sheet. It divides the Earth to the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. The northern hemisphere is that area between the equator and the North Pole. The southern hemisphere is the area between the equator and the South Pole. I want you to label the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere on your activity sheet. Pause the video. The imaginary lines around Earth that run parallel to the equator are called lines of latitude or parallels. Latitude is the distance in degrees either north or south of the equator. Latitude is measured from 0 degrees at the equator to 90 degrees north at the North Pole, or from 0 degrees at the equator to 90 degrees south at the South Pole. There are 4 other special lines of latitude that are found on a map or a globe. Look at your activity sheet. You will see a line of latitude labeled at 23.5 degrees north. This line is the Tropic of Cancer. I want you to label it 23.5 degrees north latitude. Label it Tropic of Cancer. If you need to pause the video, again, pause. Now find the line that's labeled 23.5 degrees south latitude. That line is called the Tropic of Capricorn. The Tropic of Capricorn. Label the 23.5-degree south latitude line called the Tropic of Capricorn. There is another set of latitude lines on your sheet. One is labeled the Arctic Circle, and that's at 66 1/3 degrees north latitude. And the other is the Antarctic Circle. That's at 66.5 degrees south latitude. 66 1/3 degrees south latitude. Because lines of latitude are parallel to each other, they remain the same distance apart as they circle the globe. Each degree of latitude is approximately 69 miles on Earth and about 69 miles apart on Earth. Along with latitude lines on the map, there are other imaginary lines that pass through the poles. These are called lines of longitude or meridians. These are used to measure distance east and west. And just as there is a 0-degree latitude line, there is also a 0-degree longitude line. That's called the prime meridian. Find the prime meridian on your activity sheet. The prime meridian separates the globe into the eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere. Label eastern and western hemispheres on your sheet. There are 360 lines of longitude evenly spaced around Earth. The lines of latitude and the lines of longitude come together and form a grid. Therefore, any location on Earth can be identified by describing where the latitude line and the longitude line intersect. The point of intersection is your position on Earth or your global position. This is how a GPS system operates. GPS stands for Global Positioning System. This is how we locate ships at sea. This is also how meteorologists track hurricanes, by finding their global positioning point on the map or on a globe, where the line of latitude and the line of longitude intersect. So recapping, lines of latitude or parallels run east and west and measure distance north or south of the equator. There are 5 special lines of latitude: the equator at 0 degrees, the Tropic of Cancer at 23.5 degrees north latitude, the Tropic of Capricorn at 23.5 degrees south latitude, the Arctic Circle at 66 1/3 degrees north latitude, and the Antarctic Circle at 66 1/3 degrees south latitude. Lines of longitude or meridians run north and south on the globe or a map, and they measure distance east and west of the 0-degree longitude line, which is called the prime meridian. Together, these lines form a system which allows us to locate any point on Earth. In class tomorrow, we will be completing activities to reinforce this content. You may watch this video as many times as necessary to make sure you understand the concepts. Now, I will see you in class tomorrow to flip it again.